after graduating from IIT, I started with actually management consulting. And then 2 years into it, I kind of pivoted to VC. I worked at Bessemer and I looked at a lot of the SaaS stuff. I think B2B commerce, it's a bedrock of any economy, right? Like every product in this room has come from some supply chain and there's some wholesaler or distributor behind it.
Is this persona tech savvy like the usual B2C customer?
Not really. Average customer who uses, average user of WizCommerce is at least 40 years old.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Zero to Infinity podcast. I'm Ashwin, your host today. I look at SaaS investments for the fund. We also have with us Sudipto. He's an MD and leads all our B2B commerce investments. And with us is a beloved founder we're very proud to partner with, Divyaanshu. Divyaanshu is the founder of WizCommerce. They're an AI-enabled software platform that sells to B2B commerce companies.
Thanks, Ashwin, for the intro and welcome, Divyaanshu. Great to have you as well. Obviously, you were a VC before starting up, right? And you could have easily been on the other side of the table asking the questions versus answering the questions. So what motivated you to leave investing and start up in the first place?
So Sudipto, after graduating from IIT, I started with actually management consulting. And then 2 years into it, I kind of pivoted to VC. I worked at Bessemer and I looked at a lot of the SaaS stuff. But just working in VC and consulting, like being on the sidelines, I always kind of felt that urge that I want to be actually an operator and build businesses. And at Bessemer, I saw, like, I think as a young founder, you have these questions like, am I ready? Do I know? But I think talking to a lot of founders, I realized that everybody is just figuring it out and just Googling stuff and building something in the process. So I think that kind of gave me the confidence that you have to take the leap at some point. Like you're never going to be truly ready. And so after my stint at Bessemer, I just decided to go for it.
Got it. At least people are no longer Googling. They are now doing deep research.
Now they're doing deep research.
But I think everything else stays the same.
Yeah.
VCs as well, Google. And when we first heard software for B2B commerce, we also went there first. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners would also be curious about this. Like SaaS, people are used to hearing of software being sold to high-tech companies, your sales, marketing, lead gen, all of those like usual horizontal tools. But selling to a niche like B2B commerce is interesting. And I think we should start this off by first getting like that 101 into what this space is. So who do you sell to? What do they do? And give us sort of that 101 and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. I think B2B commerce, it's a bedrock of any economy, right? Like every product in this room has come from some supply chain and there's some wholesaler or distributor behind it. We just don't interact with it. And then that's why I think nobody thinks about it. But we sell to wholesalers and distributors. They basically are middlemen sitting between manufacturers and end retailers or end businesses. Unlike B2C, where you're selling to a consumer, B2B commerce businesses are selling to an end business. And those end businesses are buying in bulk at negotiated rates or in different ways. Our ICP is wholesalers and distributors, primarily today in the US, in the revenue range of, let's say, between 2 to 3 million to upwards of like 200, 300 million. So that's a wholesale mid-market and SMB wholesalers is who we sell to.
Nice.
And these people are, in a tech nightmare, to put it lightly. Like nobody, I think if you think about B2C, everybody interacts with products. We all go to retail stores. We all buy online. So there's a lot of ideas that you can come up with, but nobody's really gotten down to like understand.
Tell me a little bit more about this persona, right? Seems very different from the B2C persona. So how is it different between selling to a customer versus this B2B persona?
See, number one, businesses, these are very, very tightly knit relationships. And you've done B2B investments, right?
Yeah.
Like you would know that nobody's just buying online and just coming and just buying something for their business. And these are typically larger order sizes. So number one, relationships are the center of this trade. So salespeople are really important. And the relationship with the end buyer is really important. So that's the number one difference. Number two is just the order size are very large. Like the people you would buy $100,000 worth of items or goods. So the sale is not as simple as like just going online and buying from a new person. So you need to have trust. You need to know you'll get the customer service. You need to know that I'll be able to return products if required. You're also expecting credit terms and things like that. So the whole, it's a typical business purchase process, but you're basically buying products, right? So that's the key difference.
Got it. And is this persona tech savvy like the usual B2C customer?
Not really. Average customer who uses, average user of WizCommerce is at least 40 years old.
Got it.
That is changing though, because now the new generation is coming in and taking the reins. But like a lot of these businesses started after globalization. So when China like became like you started importing products. So these are all businesses that started in like 1990s, early 2000s. So typically these are like, and all of these are family-run businesses.
I want to take you back to the older avatar of Wiz. It was when you guys were called SourceWiz. And back then it was more, let's transform the Indian export ecosystem. Now you sell to US sort of B2B commerce folks. Walk us through that journey. Like what was that original idea? And when you guys made this shift, what drove it? Or at what point did you realize you need to make that shift?
So it's very interesting. The people that we used to sell earlier would actually sell to these wholesalers that we're now selling software to. So we're still in that same, I think, industry overall, but we've just changed who we are servicing and how we are servicing them. But our initial idea was like, we'll digitize global trade from India and we'll work with these export factories and just kind of simplify how they sell to US retailers or wholesalers. And we had taken a very different path to solve the problem. We felt like the factories were very undigitized, which leads to a lot of issues. So we were first building a sales and marketing stack for those factories and then trying to monetize that through a trade layer or marketplace layer on top of it. Our software business was doing really well. I think we onboarded like some 600 factories. And I think before Sudipto invested, he said like, these factories will never pay you. And he was very surprised and came in that, okay, you're actually taking money from them. But I think when we started building the marketplace, we realized that that's not a VC. Like it's a very slow business because like relationships are literally the bedrock of this whole ecosystem. So to break into a relationship is a very, very long cycle, unless like you start doing lending and some other stuff, which is not truly value additive. So that was one thing, and we were really enjoying building this the software layer of it. And then when stars align, everything comes together. I think when we were trying to build the marketplace, we realized that we had to build every software in-house. We tried to build it on Shopify, we couldn't. Magento, we couldn't. So we built all our marketplace, like the B2B e-commerce layer, all by ourselves. We tried implementing HubSpot for our sales rep, we couldn't. So we had to build that ourselves. So that was an insight that, hey, why are we building all this, right? Like there are tons of wholesalers out there. Are they all running on pen and paper? Because this is like a nightmare to implement. And parallelly, while we were thinking about this, one of our larger customers from India had a very sizable wholesale business in the US. So they came to us organically and said like, hey, can you do something for my US side of the business? So that's where the light bulb like kind of lit up, and we said, okay, let's just go look at it deeply. And that's when we started meeting a lot more wholesalers in the US and decided to pivot.
Nice. And Sudipto, India overall, you've seen this deeply. The number of successful B2B commerce businesses we've had is through the roof. Again, like we're investors in Offbee and all of that. So we've seen massive success on B2B commerce businesses. But I don't think India has still had that large outcome on a company that's selling software to these businesses. So one, do you see some of that changing and why?
So I think first, Divyaanshu, great job in navigating and getting to the right product to the customer. I think we have seen that journey with you and you have been very iterative to get to the right answer. To kudos to that. And we as investors have also learned a lot from you, sort of watching that process. I think to your question, Ashwin, if you look at a business, right, the business actually has 4 different pieces. One is they need inputs or raw materials. Second, they produce that and you have output or finished goods. Third, to do all of that, you need capital. And fourth, you need productivity tools. Any business in the world, from a farmer to a retailer, to a factory, to a wholesaler distributor, are essentially operating on those 4 axes. In India till now, for most of the small businesses, they were so underutilized and profit margins were so small that they were only focused on A, can you solve for my outputs, which is sell my finished goods? And 2, can you give me access to formal capital so that either I can do capex financing or supply chain / working capital financing. All the large businesses in India today actually have been built on either B2B commerce focused on finished goods or outputs or financing these businesses. Now, as these businesses start scaling in India today, and larger factories get set up, wholesalers and distributors become larger, they will also want tools that help improve their productivity. And once they start seeing real delta in their productivity because of using our software, and hopefully more and more with AI, their propensity to pay should increase. And this, by the way, is not isolated to India as well. If I look at the US and look at software companies built for more industrials, wholesale distribution, I think they skipped Internet 2.0. Like a lot of tools for them were built for Internet 1.0, which is simple CRM stuff, simple website. But nobody truly adopted sort of cloud, mobile first apps because they were not necessarily improving the productivity of that small business with like 8, 10 people. And today, interestingly, two more things have happened in the US. I think this persona that Divyaanshu so fondly talks about and almost lives and breathes every day, they have become more and more tech savvy. And two, the tools today are actually helping these small businesses improve their productivity more and more so with AI. So I think a combination of these two, I think both across India and US, I hope a lot of now productivity tools, which is essentially software, will now be built for these B2B personas, right? The retailers, the wholesalers, the traders, the manufacturers. And honestly, in the US, I'm seeing over the last 3 years, a lot of companies doing that. Like there are a bunch of companies like Maintenance in the predictive maintenance space, which are now catching fire in manufacturing. Actually, there are companies like Pano.ai, which have built software to stop trees from catching fire. So I think there's a lot happening in this sector, and I think WizCommerce is probably the first out of India, but I'm sure there will be a lot more that will solve both for Indian B2B, but especially for the US from India.
And I think, Sudipto, when I talk to my customers, I think that they were so badly underserved technology in the first generation of like tools that came out. Most of these are still on on-prem ERPs. And the first time they implemented an ERP, it took them 2 years and a lot of pain. I think there was a genuine fear of technology, right? And since then, every time they've tried to implement something, it's been very, very hard. And generally, these businesses are they don't have big IT teams. Like they don't have engineers in-house who can manage these complex projects. So I feel like with AI, if you can deliver an end-to-end outcome, like, hey, I'm not just selling you a tool, like go figure out how to implement it. If you can actually get them to that outcome and get them to that outcome fast, I think that's a big shift that's coming now. And therefore, like a very verticalized approach with like a lot of implementation support is what will drive adoption in these businesses rather than, go figure it out yourself tech, which happened.
And the vertical thing, I completely agree because we actually use the same swathe for B2B. But even in B2B commerce, we have seen like vertical marketplaces do really well better than horizontal because every supply chain is so different. Your working capital cycle is different. The way the trade is done is different, very different, right? The number of sizes, lots. And in B2C, you can have one website. In B2B, you have to customize all of that so that it's part of the workflow. So I think the vertical thing we have seen in B2B commerce for sure. And it's obviously very, very logical for software built for B2B commerce.
Yeah.
Nice. I think, so usually when we look at each space for there to be large company creation, two variables need to check out. One is sort of this clear why now, which in this case, you have users, they have unmet needs, they are open to adopting software and software can deliver productivity needs that they need. The second piece of this puzzle comes to that market being large enough. So today, if we look at just the B2B commerce software space, do you, one, believe that we have a large enough spend bucket to support an entirely new vertical SaaS sort of TAM for this space?
In the US, absolutely. In the India, still early, and we have to see pockets where a large 100 million plus revenue TAM is available for companies in the next 5 years. But in the US, it's very large. Maybe we can do a back of the math envelope.
And the US is also fairly organized. Like I think India still like B2B trade is slightly unorganized in the way it runs, but
and also the size of the businesses and ACVs you can have. So on US, right, as I was saying, let's do a quick guesstimate of your TG of customers that you serve today, specifically in that segment. How many retailers would be out there?
How many wholesalers? So currently we are, for example, in home decor, furniture, cosmetics, like a lot of these product categories. So there are about like 70,000, 75,000 businesses. Overall in the US, there are about 300,000 wholesale and distributors. But The categories where we have some kind of traction today, we have like about 70,000
And
wholesalers.
how much is their total software spend, not on you, but total software spend that they do in a year?
So it's very, very different, Sudipto. If you go to a mid-market, like they are spending anywhere from like $1 million to $1.5 million combined on software and management of that software, because there's a lot of management when you have to outsource everything. When you look at a smaller business, they're still spending like $40,000-$50,000 per year on software. And the spend is very high because there are a lot of essential softwares that you need in this category just to drive business. Just to get an order from Walmart, you need an EDI platform. Just to get you need a point of sale system. So there's a lot of essential software spend.
But on to your point, Ashwin, on TAM, even if I take 70,000 retailers and the lowest 50,000 spend, right, that's $3.5 billion of TAM. Now the question is, how do you get to 5,000-10,000 of those retailers, and how can you probably target 25,000-30,000 of that ACV spend?
And I think just looking at software is kind of wrong, because when we look at our business model, there's a fintech element to it. So we're already processing payments for our customers. So you're kind of monetizing the GMV that flows through your platform, which is what Shopify, Toast and others have done. So that's another layer of monetization, which to the customer feels free because I'm not charging them anything extra. They have to use a credit card processor. Mine is just deeply integrated in my stack and it's just easier to use for them. But then once you aggregate this audience, there's a lot of different ways to monetize this. One of my favorite companies in the US is Slice, which is if you think about Toast, it powers all restaurants. Slice is very different. They say we'll only work with independent pizzerias.
Yeah.
Independent. There are only 40,000 of those in the US. And the rest 40,000 pizza are part of a chain. The way they visualize their business is that if I am buying a Domino's franchisee, what all would Domino's provide me? And that's my entire TAM for an independent pizzeria. So right now they're doing 100 million ARR. I think they've crossed that benchmark. But they're delivering pizza boxes because they have a collective buying power. They are doing a lot of raw material sourcing. And in the US, you have organized players doing all that. So you don't need to build full stack, but just aggregating demand and just bridging those gaps. I think the monetization pool will keep increasing as you aggregate a certain kind of audience. Plus,
I think the key
agentic
thing
AI.
that you said is, for that customer, you need to be the most reliable, trusted partner.
Yeah.
And you do it with software, then you layer on payments, then hopefully you add AI agents, and who knows, you might be back to commerce at some point in time.
No, absolutely. When I started the company, I wasn't okay, I just have to start a SaaS company, right? I'm very open, and you've seen we did commerce, it didn't work, we did SaaS and we're enjoying it. So whatever it takes, right, to just deliver value to the customer, and we'll kind of do that. But yeah, I think the way we look at TAM is in vertical SaaS has to be very, very different. And therefore, I think everything we've built in the company is to provide a very, very good customer experience. And I think that's something that never gets spoken about. But if you talk to my customers, they will talk less about software, more about the kind of support and services they get from us, because that's what's going to enable me to sell the next service. It's trust and brand. I think those two things really matter. Especially for these more traditional businesses, because that's how they also run their business.
When you say services, what are these?
So Sudipto, for example, early on we took some calls. We said, Shopify sells you a CMS. We will not sell you a CMS. We know that these customers don't have IT teams, marketing teams. They can't design it on their own. We said, okay, we will actually deploy a website, right? Completely. So you come to us, we have all the toolkit to build the website, but we'll give you a deployed website. In 1 month, you'll have a website which is live and you're starting to get orders, rather than, hey, go find an external partner to do it. The other thing that we really solve for them, for example, is because these are older businesses, the only piece of technology that they implemented was 20 years back in ERP, which is a legacy Sage system. Or for SMBs, for example, most of our customers use QuickBooks Desktop. They haven't migrated to the online version. And those integrations are absolutely necessary to run the business, because all your customer data, inventory data, orders, everything is there and has to flow back there. So we actually integrate with those systems also. And it's not come and do your own mapping. We'll deploy it completely for you. And with AI, it's actually helping us deliver those outcomes. So for a website today, I don't have
that,
to...
right? Intuitively, it sounds to me that obviously there's a lot of human element to it. So there's a lot of cost. Do you get paid for it? Does this make your business more linear?
Absolutely get paid for it. One thing about our customers is that they'll pay. If you're delivering value, they'll pay. And especially because you're delivering some of these services from India and you can use a lot of AI to do those now. You're not charging hundreds of thousands of dollars. So just to give you context, like our implementation runs anywhere between $3,000, $4,000 one time to like $50,000, right? Depending on, size, complexity, things like that. But it takes us like 2 days to deploy a website now. Like, because literally it's very, very easy with AI to do that. So why not, right? If you can deliver that delightful experience, and the customer doesn't need to know how the sausage is made, but they just care about the end outcome, right?
Yeah.
So we deliver outcomes, and that's a call we took early on. And that's why I think customers are referring other customers, because they know if they come here, they'll get to the outcome, right? We are not another software vendor which will never get implemented, and they spend 2 years fighting a battle that they can't win.
After the sale, how much service and support do you need to give the customer?
I think once they get used to it, and like, because it's a daily use product, right? So in 15 days, you'll get used to it completely.
But then it's maybe
So-
15 days before the sale and 15 days after
Yeah.
the sale, there's hand holding,
Yeah.
and after that, they're on autopilot.
They're on their autopilot, because in 15 days, you'll figure it out. You're going to use it every day, and people use it like 4 or 5 hours a day, right? So, but at the same time, we still provide a customer success who's a dedicated customer success manager. So they don't have to like go to general help and wait for like a response, which is what a lot of legacy providers were doing to them. And I think if you are bundling things and your ACVs are high enough in your fintech, you can actually provide that level of support. If you're a point solution, you can't provide that level of support to an SMB. And our customers need that. Like, tech is not there. They don't want to buy technology. They don't want to implement technology. They just want it to happen. So we just make it happen for them.
Got it. Fantastic.
But this, like, the journey you guys have had is just an incredible pace, like $0 to $1 million in revenue in sub 5 quarters. I think that's wild. And a question that VVCs get a lot today is this India to the US SaaS edge real anymore? And, is there any value in still that entire model? So clearly you guys have seen some success. And from a lot of the points you put together, I could see that there is some emerging answer towards that point. So do you believe there's an India SaaS edge, or how has that sort of helped you in this company?
Ashwin, what is an Indian SaaS company? Like, if you even look at a US company, they have half of their team in India today, right? So I think we should always position ourselves as a US SaaS company with some part of our team based in India. And there's definitely edge to it, right? Especially in these sleepy segments, unsexy markets where people are not tech savvy. The level of support, the level of implementation support, guidance that you can provide to the customer to get them to the outcome, you can't do that from India. And that's one of the reasons why this category I feel was untapped in the US. The US companies don't want to go through this effort for SMB and mid-market customers to get there, to implement, to provide them actual service. They don't. Like, for them, the ACV at which they would provide this is like maybe $300,000, $400,000. But from India, you can actually provide that very economically at a $40,000, $50,000 ACV, right? So there's definitely that edge. But I feel like we should just not think about us as Indian SaaS. Like, we are US SaaS companies. Like, I'd never go and tell my customer building from India. Like, none of that. They don't care. We're a US company, and part of our team is based in India, which is true for most US companies today as well, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of founders today, at least, don't think of themselves in this sort of local maxima. They're like, we are the best company from India SaaS. You just start to believe globally, how can I build the best company?
We should hire talent globally from day one. That's another thing that I believe. Like, I feel like we really try to keep talent here. And so I took a call early on. I had like literally 2 customers. And I said, I'm going to hire 2 sales reps in the US. Every founder I spoke to told me, don't do this. This is stupid. Don't hire the first sales guy till you hit $1 million. Like, it'll take me like 5 years to hit that $1 million. So, but you have to walk customer backward and say like, okay, my customer lacks trust in technology. Their only exposure to India is buying products from factories, which were never delivered on time. The only parts of India they've seen are Panipat, Muradabad, and these tier 2 towns. How do I expect them to trust me, right? Like, they won't. So we, from day one, positioned ourselves as US company. We had a sales team on the ground in the US from day one, because that's what we needed to build trust. And we service them from India. Now, like, literally every testimonial you hear, they're saying like, Sunny, our customer success manager, feels like part of our family, but it takes them time to get there, right? So sell the way they want to be sold, and then service, like, you can really provide services from here. But I think the sales and GTM, I feel like the muscle needs to be built in the US if you need to like scale fast.
How do you identify your first 2 sales reps?
So the biggest thing for me was that it takes a lot of time to build the vertical knowledge in vertical SaaS, right? Like, wholesale is not intuitive. So to find like some random person and teach them wholesale would take a 6-month period. So I actually just told them from sleepy competitors. I went to them, I reached out to the sales reps. I literally went and met them in person, because again, why should they trust somebody reaching out to them from India? Showed them the product, built a lot of trust that way, and got our first 2 sales rep like that.
Taking you to that choice of where you said we decided to build for SMBs, the mid market, and all of that. If we look at most of the SaaS businesses that have done this, it's all in that sort of 30% churn range, and it's almost accepted. Selling to SMBs, expect 30% churn. You guys are doing 140% in NRR. Like, what's the secret sauce?
So every SMB, not all SMBs are same, right? Like I am an SMB, but I have a high risk as a startup of dying, or my needs might change very, very quickly. But the SMBs that I'm selling to have been in business for 20 years, right? So they're not, and they're cash flow businesses, cash flow positive businesses that have survived. They're just smaller in size. And what I'm selling to them also matters. I'm selling to them an essential piece of software, the last software that they will shut down in their company. So the only time you will have churn when you're selling that essential toolkit is when the company dies, right? They're just not making sales anymore. They don't need to collect payments anymore. So I think those combinations help us like build a very high retention business.
And Divyaanshu, just here, and maybe for the audience, if you just split and break down, what is the product offering? I think that will be helpful for people to even visualize that.
Yeah. So there are 2 ways in which our customers are making sales today, right? So there's a sales rep who's on the road, and I think that even in India, people can visualize like how like people go to Kirana store to like make a sale. That's exactly what's happening in the US. The sales reps divided by territory, going to retailers and like making sale. And then COVID was a very big moment for this industry where that just stopped. So everybody had to go digital. So the other side of making sales is people just using a self-service B2B e-commerce website for your business and making orders directly. So we power both these sides with our platform. So we have a sales app for the sales reps on the road that they can use to service their customers, take orders, quotes, presentations, everything that they need to do on a day-to-day basis. And then we build and deploy e-commerce websites for our customers where their end businesses can log in and place orders, track orders, and things like that. So that's the offering, and then
the payments product is essentially
that's layered in. Like when you're taking an order, you'll take payments with it. There's also point of sale mode, like when a lot of our customers do trade shows where they need to. It almost like the same app becomes a point of sale system, so you can scan, take orders on an iPad. So it kind of essentially covers all their 3 channels of sales with one single company, one single product, one single integration on the back end. So that's our offering today.
And I think in general, word on the street would be, hey, SaaS is dead, buyers are saturated, everyone's getting bombarded by like 10 different SaaS tools to buy. But you guys are doing well and you're very optimistic. So what's different, or what's this side of the world you're seeing?
The problem is
he's
that
the founder, he needs to be optimistic, Ashwin.
That is true. But I think there's a very big universe outside of San Francisco where people need to just go and visit. I'll tell you, when I started the company, when I was just pivoting to the US, I went to the US and I would take a flight and just always try to meet customers in their offices because I just wanted to get an instinct for the customer. So I've been to Mississippi, I've been to Dalton in Georgia, I've been to Texas, like different parts of Texas, just to meet customers. That world is very different from the world of like, SF or like Klarna saying we bought 1,200 SaaS apps. That's not happening there. Those people they just have really, really bad workflows. Still a lot of things happen on pen and paper. People still print out things in pass sheets in their offices, and the tools that they use are very, very legacy. A lot of them are not even on cloud properly. Like they're using an on-prem ERP. So yeah, I mean, there's a completely different universe out there where I think AI will work, but SaaS will also work because you can't just deploy AI into like thin air. Like you need something that it interacts with. So that's what we are building. Like we are adding a lot of AI to our product now, but we needed that essential layer in the middle which can interact with their legacy ERP and things like that. So that's
How can AI help this persona?
So a lot of things, Sudipto. So I think divided into 2 parts. One, as you know, B2B commerce is a margin business, right? Like, and margins have been under pressure for a while, right? The whole the container prices have been going up and down.
And with recession and all of that.
Yeah. And now tariffs, for example, impose like a big cost on our customers. So I think one part of AI is that there's a lot of back office operations which were highly manual so far. Like just customer service, for example, a business with let's say $5-7 million revenue has like 7 or 8 customer service people taking calls from both sales reps and from customers, just answering basic queries like, hey, is this in stock? When is my order going to reach me? And then maybe some of them are complex, but 70% of it is redundant stuff, which should just, be automated. And then there's order processing, like teams just doing data entry, like sitting and like taking a PDF, entering it into the ERP, right? So one is like on a bottom line level, a lot of these functions you can kind of optimize and automate. Some of them can be automated through even RPA, and some of them which are more unstructured, you'd need like an AI layer to like automate those. And then the other challenge that these businesses face is labor challenge. Like there's a recruitment challenge in these industries. Like if you're a wholesaler and now you have e-commerce and now you need to hire a marketing person, it's very hard to find young talent who wants to do it. And so the future that I see for this industry is that for SMBs at least, like one operations like just hacky person can manage like marketing and can manage customer service and is interacting with a bunch of agents to like do that. So I feel like there are areas where they don't find necessarily good talent is another area that you can disrupt by just having an AI like do the best practices, discover
And how willing have your customers been to adopt? Like you obviously have a core product, right? And now you've added modules on top, and some of them being AI agents and pieces of AI software. How willing have they been to try and experiment new
the
technology?
first time we presented it, there was literally there was a big conference at one of our mid-market customers and invited us to present that they're switching and stuff, and we showed them Kai, which is our AI sales co-pilot. Literally everybody stood up and clapped. They're very excited because if you build something deeply, they will adopt it. Just a small AI element that we have in our product that drives insane productivity is if something is out of stock, our AI just tells them like, hey, these are the alternate items you can sell. And you don't have to like hard code anything into the system. It's looking at image, data, trying to find similar items and things like that. We see like about 15% orders on the app are now written through that. And I've seen people use it in person where they're selling to a retailer. If you're a wholesale rep, you have like 30,000 products to sell from. You will never remember them, right? So I've seen people selling to a customer and they're like, okay, you like this product. Why don't you buy some variety? Click a button, like 4 other items added to the cart. So like just go very deep into like what their real problems are and solve for those. The people will just pay for that view similar AI because it drives productivity, right? In their context. But yeah, if you're selling generic stuff, it's hard to prove. They will not adopt or they're just hard people to please.
No, makes sense. Obviously, going deep into customer, and I think it's true for almost, it doesn't matter if you're building B2C or B2B or software. I think going deep into the customer and truly understanding their pain points and building for them is what is the thin edge of the wedge through which you actually unlock a big TAM.
So by next year, I think we plan to have like at least 10, 12 like AI agents, like doing different parts of the company, and then people can pick and choose according to their problems. That's what we want to get to in the next year or so.
What's the vision behind building WizCommerce? Obviously, you've pivoted and now you're in a good spot. Customers are growing fast. They love the product, which shows in NRR and sort of the number of organic requests that you get. But what's the end-term vision? What do you want to build?
Our end goal is to be the single software that serves all their business workflows. I want to have an AI employee workforce for them. I want to be the software that powers all their channels. And really what we're focusing on is how do we help them grow eventually, right? Like how do we help them get more orders? And with AI, like how do we bridge the gap, the knowledge gap that exists between like the best businesses and these SMBs and mid-market. So the vision is that, I should typically be the only vendor from a tech perspective they need to deal with over the next decade or so. And we'll keep going deeper into this industry. Like I think it's a large enough industry, which is very important and nobody is really focusing on it, and we're lucky that we found ourselves in this category.
Got it.
Awesome. You've done some incredible stuff serving customers in an unsexy market and made a lot of money doing it. So we're super excited to be partners, and thanks again for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, there's a lot more for you to check out. If you like Indian startup content, learning about founder journeys, or learning about how we invest in the various sectors that Z47 invests in, this is the channel for you. Don't forget to subscribe.